Yes, hello, folks. Welcome to the weekly Manchester United podcast. I am your host, as always, Phil Brown, joined with my excellent co-host, James Rhodes. Jamesy, how you doing, mate?
Doing well today. How about you?
Not too bad, of course, for the day after the Leeds United cliffhanger penalty shootout. I don't know why we have to have penalty shootouts, but I suppose we have to win a trophy at the end of these. Nonetheless, United, with the exception of Wrexham, have continued their impressive pre-season form, not losing. Thought they played quite well, deserved to win the game, in my opinion. From what I did see, I was very encouraged. What was your take on it? I only had it on, by the way. I should say this. I wasn't sitting watching it forensically from start to finish, but from what I did see, it was quite encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, a takeaway was correct there. I think was 2 weeks in a row now, PSG and Leeds. The goalkeepers really were probably man of the match for both the opposition sides for United. James Trafford, obviously newly on from Manchester City. He's a good goalkeeper. Just it was the strange situation where they bought him to be the first keeper, and then they ended up buying Donnarumma over the top of him right off the bat and moved him on. City are very ruthless with that, but also I'm sure there's more that goes on in terms of how they're getting the kind of fees that they're getting for people.
I
And
do wonder how James Trafford deals with. They played me one game and then went out and broke the world record for a goalkeeper. How bad was that?
well, and it's not even that. It's just City, right? And they just spend and spend and spend and spend. And then when they go to sell, somehow they recoup all the money. And
Yeah.
there's more going on under the surface on this, and it'll
Listen,
never be caught and punished. It's just crazy. I mean, when you're seeing them today, total tangent now, but seeing them today like selling reindeers to Saudi, it's just
reindeers.
yeah, reindeers. That's what I call them. I don't even know if that's what is actual
Oh,
pronunciation.
Danny
You might
Reinders.
as well call them that.
Reinders.
Yeah, reindeers.
Uh,
But selling him for 70 million or something
nah, it's absurd.
more than they bought him to Saudi. I'm sure there's no kickbacks and money going around, anywhere to make this happen. But it's also, I look at the players and I go, this is the danger of going to Manchester City for players like Elliot Anderson. If it doesn't work out, they're going to ruin your career. You're not, James Trafford was stepping up to one of the best clubs in England. Now he's at Leeds after that without even getting a chance. Rangers was stepping up to one of the biggest clubs in England. Now he's in Saudi, not even in Europe, in Saudi. And it's like, be wary. Be wary. If it doesn't work, they will get rid of you wherever will take
Well,
you. And,
in some ways, though, if you're a City fan or a City, someone who runs City, it's a very clear dilemma for
yeah,
players. Come here and you perform, or you get kicked out.
sure.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
You're not going to get 2 seasons, 3 seasons. You have to perform right away, or you're gone.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the market from Manchester City's perspective, City are doing what they should be doing. City should be looking for loopholes, right?
Yeah.
City have a lot of money they want to spend, and they're trying to find ways to spend it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame them for doing what they're doing. What I have an issue with is the authorities not investigating this.
Yes, of course.
Right? There's market value, James, right? We keep hearing Elliot Anderson goes to Man City for 116 million. That's going to completely change the market. But we never hear that whenever City sell a player, that they've just sold a player is going to completely change the market, because nobody believes that's an honest appraisal, an honest valuation of these particular players. There's just simply no way. I mean, you can't tell me, James, that there wasn't skullduggery going on between Aston Villa and Chelsea. I don't know if I spoke to you about this or I was speaking to myself. I can't remember these days, right? But I remember thinking to myself, Chelsea got more for Garnacho than what United got.
Yeah.
No way. And that's on the heels of Chelsea spending 117 million for Morgan Rogers, which was 1 million more than the Elliot Anderson deal. You can absolutely see why both those football clubs have said it's in our interest to significantly inflate the value of these players to each other, because it's going to help us immensely with FFP, PSR, or ABC, or whatever they call it these days, right? The rules are somewhat, this is an emergent property of the rules.
Yeah.
It encourages you to sell young players. And now it encourages you to sell them at massively inflated prices between clubs. I don't know how you get around it, but it's the same with the Strasbourg thing with Chelsea. You know, I'm sitting reading
Yep.
Chelsea and Strasbourg locked in negotiations. What the fuck are you talking about?
Send an email, log into your other account, enter your 2-factor code.
It's Football Manager cheating. I'm like, how does a journalist even have the cojones to write an article like this? Like, word. It's so stupid, right? And so, yeah, there's definitely. It seems like, I don't know. I'd like to see United do a bit more. Personally, if United were manipulating the market slightly like that, would I care? No.
Right. I hear you.
Why isn't Lausanne locked in negotiations?
We did sell someone over there, you know. We did move someone over there.
One of the kids for Ugarte?
To be fair, as soon as we got involved, we got banned from transfer dealings with Nice. The minute United were around, we got a transfer ban with the club that Ineos own. Suddenly, the rules applied to us and nobody else immediately.
I have to believe that, you know, we all like to feel victim, right? But Chelsea and City aren't getting away with stuff that United couldn't technically get away with. I mean, how difficult would it be for United to turn around and use in the mitigating defense? Well, it's exactly the same thing Chelsea did. It's exactly the same thing City did. And the football authorities can't decide on an ad hoc basis where we're going to apply different rules to you.
Yeah.
Even though they like to try to do that.
They do, though.
Yeah, but James, where that usually happens, where you have a differential, is the clubs that don't generate money are the ones that get shot.
For sure.
United should be able to find a way to get around rules if they really, really want it.
No, look, at the end of the day, my big warning is to the players. Because I think the people who are losing is the players, you know, that you go to City, that could be the end of your career. We've seen players leave United and go on and have successful careers at different clubs, and they don't end up in Saudi. We never sold anybody to Saudi at this point. You know?
United have never done a deal to Saudi. I mean, the only player that has even come close, I suppose, was Bruno.
Yeah.
I have to say that
it's just weird. It's bizarre.
James, listen, you know, when people talk about Marcus Rashford and stuff, about what clubs he could have went to, and you know, in terms of paydays and stuff, I was in the car when an offer was made by the Saudis to Marcus, exorbitant amounts of money, and it was immediately turned down. Marcus wasn't on the phone call; it was to someone else who was on his behalf. They were turning down massive offers, right? That were not about a payday. So not every player wants to go there, to be fair, for the payday.
Correct. Yeah, of course.
But it is a bit surprising that United have not sold anyone. God, I hope the aggregators don't get a hold of that. Please don't, because that's clumsily made point, and it's not worth aggregating. Let's talk about the Leeds game, because what would you say? Because I couldn't give an educated assessment because I wasn't watching that closely. What would you say in terms of United's performance? How would you rate it?
I would say the first half was effectively probably an 8 out of 10. It was really, really, really good stuff. Obviously, United scored a really nice goal. Patrick Dorgu to Mbumo beating a man. Mbumo's been absolutely on fire this preseason so far. Really looks like he used the rest well, needed it. And has been just flying. But Xerxes then getting another goal. Xerxes looked really sharp. You know, I was commenting that Xerxes, when he was initially brought in, the idea was him to play between Rashford and Garnacho as two vertical athletic runners beside him in the way that he doesn't play as a traditional striker. You know, that was one of the main ideas. That was abandoned really quickly for whatever reason when it happened, and the roles all changed and sort of led to quite a few problems with everybody. But you know, he was kind of doing that in this fluid setup with Dorgu and Mbumo as these really athletic, fast, vertical players, and just really good. But there was so much to like about the performance from United in terms of the structures, the way that they played. It was controlled, it was possession, but it was also vertical, you know, in the sense that we're not going to play like this Arsenal or Pep pass to death for the sake of passing, but we're not playing at all on the counter either. It's really, really refreshing, really nice way. We saw a lot of that. Santos continued to be unbelievable in the way that he plays. I swear to God, I'm not being hyperbolic when I choose to say that just from a standpoint of intelligence and watching the way he positions himself on the pitch. Is not the fastest player. he's just always in the right spot every single time, like magic. And you can't teach that. It's just something that some people can read the game that well have. And yeah, very impressive for him in there. And he makes a massive difference to the team being on there. And obviously the second half, very different, not really a balanced team that was out there, not players who were fresh, players who were more very early into the preseasons, right? Bruno, Tielemans, just a few minutes in, but they, they're still obviously the bright sparks you see from guys like Tielemans. But the football in the first half of PSG was as good as anything we've seen still once again. So I'm very happy about that in terms of the visible intentions of the way we want to play.
Community Shield is next weekend, isn't it?
It must be. It should be this weekend because the Premier League is next weekend.
Yeah, this weekend. Yeah, so you're essentially just over a week out.
Yeah,
from the start of the league. From what we've seen on the pitch, there's definitely a lot of encouragement. Players coming back. Matthijs de Ligt is one that isn't a million miles away. I don't know how close he is, but it seems like there's been no setbacks to his recovery, which is very encouraging. Of course, we have some young players. There is noticeable gaps in that squad, James, that you must address, in my opinion. They don't have to address it by Hull, but they have to obviously address it by the end of the window. In terms of that aspect, where you're looking at gaps in the team, which is not perfect, where would you look at and think, okay, this is still a concern for me?
I mean, the number one is left back. It's far and away the biggest concern that we've got. Last season, Luke Shaw started every game in the Premier League. He played the most minutes of anyone in the club. And even if we would say, you know what, Luke Shaw, despite the scratchy injury record that he's had, understandably, is even if he could redo that, you're talking about adding another 2,000 minutes worth of games, maybe more onto that, on top of that, in terms of additional Champions League games, 8 more league games, getting through the stage, hopefully a couple more cup games this time. Although, it's just too much. And you really want to be in a situation that even if Luke Shaw is your starting left back, that you can start someone else in the League Cup and it's not a disaster. And it's not someone playing completely out of position. And then you could start someone in the early FA Cup rounds, and you could sub him off here and there, and you could rotate occasionally, and all of that. That's the far and away the biggest gap that I see. I still personally have questions on the center backs, though I don't think it'll be addressed this summer, just because historically, Maguire and Lissandro only do about 1,200 to 1,500 minutes each over the course of a season on average, and then De Ligt's been out for so long. I'm very conservative on the estimates of him returning, because once you actually get into contact and playing, you never know what will happen with the injury like that. And that leaves just a couple of young guys. So for me, the center back is actually almost you have a lot of players, but almost more questions than even any other position. Whereas the left back is like the only one I would say there's a real alarm bell ringing in terms of that there. Your microphone, I don't think it unmuted there, but that would be the main one. Yeah.
Well, Tennant Thompson started yesterday.
Yes.
How did he do?
He was nice. I mean, look, it's a young player, his first minutes with the first team, but I liked quite a few things about him. Very brave. He really wanted to go at it, take a player on, different stylistically, which is good, to Cunha and these guys who want to play more narrow. He was sitting out on the touchline, get the ball, take a man on, cut it inside. A lot of ways, this is almost going to sound bad because I'm very scathing of Garnacho, but there were similarities in terms of style of players as Garnacho as he was coming through into the team, in the way that he would, get it out wide, want to, do a couple little step overs and take it on the inside and try to get the ball into the box or shoot. But he seems a bit more controlled, and, Garnacho as well. I think if he maybe done some things a little different, might have become better than things ended up, at the very least, because there was potential there for sure. But I see similarities, interestingly, in them in terms of style anyway.
Also, Harry Amas started the game. So he started the game, right? Didn't he? Did he look like a Premier League left back?
He was good. going forward, as he tends to be pretty aggressive. In the second half, he was Willie Gnonto came on for Leeds, very athletic young player, and he
was
was
a good player, to be fair.
Torching him on that side, though, is really the way it was 4 or 5 times in the span of 8 minutes. Like it was over and over and over. And that would be the main concern. I mean, but Harry Amos, I think, is a good player with potential, but I do think that is the biggest reason why United are looking and saying, we just don't think you can keep up maybe defensively with these players. And to be fair, I mean, this may be why Carrick doesn't put Patrick Dorgu back there for the same reason. I don't know,
But he did not play Mason Mount yesterday, right?
No, he was out for the game.
Okay, so that raises the question, James, because apparently after the game, if it's a precaution, right? Here's my concern with this, right?
Yeah.
Footballers are getting knocks every couple of minutes in a game.
Yeah.
But they're not coming off as a precaution. Yeah. If I got to take a footballer out of a game as a precaution and then misses the next game as a precaution, that is extremely cautionary, right?
Right.
Which suggests to me United aren't completely convinced by how robust his physical recovery is. I understand there's some reticence because of his previous track record, but we can't have a midfielder who's fit, but when he takes a knock, he has to miss 2-3 games just in case.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you on that front. And I guess, what I'm looking at is, you do have, obviously, in the midfield, Tielemans, Santos, Cobby, without even factoring in Mason Mount. It's like almost enough if you bet on Mason Mount playing some games. 900 minutes is, I think, his average at United so far. But at the same time, you don't know when that's going to become available. So it raises a little bit of a question. It certainly would be ideal to get another midfielder coming in there to back that, because you just don't know. You don't know when is Mason Mount going to be in or out for sure. That is an unanswerable question. And it feels like they're so careful with it that you have to it's almost like inevitable then that he's going to be out, because any little thing they're going to be very careful of, and then kind of creates its own issue there. But I think that United are probably okay with getting a younger player there too, to field some of the minutes after the main 3 players that they would have for that position.
Toby Collier had a decent game yesterday, which from what I read, so that wouldn't do United any harm in trying to move Toby Collier on. You get maybe 5 million for Toby Collier. I think United should jump at that. I can't see anything in his career, James, to this point that would justify. I mean, maybe you get 5 million with a bunch of add-ons. There's a potential that he sees out if he develops as a player. On top of that, Joshua Zirkzee has shown some form. We talked about the fact that he needed to show that form after the Rosenborg game, James, which, to be fair, he has looked very, very good since then. Since the Wrexham game. He scores against Rosenborg and scored another goal again yesterday against Leeds. What's your take on Zirkzee? Is there a place where there's a potential for the big man to stay?
I guess the question would be, how do United benefit if he goes on loan? Yeah. What's the benefit for United? What's the upside? He's not on huge wages. It's not like some massive, then it wouldn't get much of a cash influx there. Even his purchase price was not huge. They're not looking at a gigantic cost for the player on a yearly basis. If you can recoup a lot of money, 25, 30 million, something like that, because you're going, we can take that, have more cash. We can put it to other areas where we have more need, because we do have a lot of forwards now. Then it would kind of make sense. I can hear you. Keep going. Yeah. Then it would kind of make sense. But if you're not getting a significant amount of money, what's really the point? I mean, why not just have an option for a player like him that does bring something different? One thing I want to say as well is the last time Joshua Zirkzee played well consistently, it was in the Europa League. And that seems like a long time ago. He barely played last year. It was one of the reasons, and he and among others were looking at moves away in January to get more minutes. But he played quite well in the Europa League, and different pace of the game in Europe. And I'm personally of the mindset that if you're not going to get 25 to 30 for Josh Zirkzee, that lets you do something else.
Yeah.
You keep him, have him as an option that could bring you something different. Cup games, in Europe gives you just something different at a different pace of the game where sometimes his skill set shines a little bit more. And that would be my inclination. Is there's no point in loaning him. He's also by all accounts a really good character to have around, which was something that dressing room wise.
Yeah, I'm dodgy about that whole.
I know that. I hear that kind of.
There's
stuff
a lot of
too,
things. He's a footballer.
Yeah.
We can have
no.
someone.
Okay, here's I guess what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that
I know what you mean.
You don't need to just loan him out because it's like a bad influence on the dressing room, and it's worth getting him gone for the sake of getting him gone. You know what I mean? Like there has to be a benefit to the club to removing him, in that sense is what I would see. And I don't think the loan provides enough benefit there to be sensible if there wasn't a purchase attached to it.
The question then on that is, I don't think Josh Zirkzee is ever going to be good enough to be a Manchester United striker.
Sure.
And when you look at the form and Bumo was shown with coming in central, you look at the fact that Shea Lacey's also been playing as a 10 quite a bit.
Yep.
I think it's the kind of deal where if United did loan Zirkzee out or sell him, I know this is going to grind on a lot of people, but it's not the end of the world if they didn't send a number 9. I'm not saying that they should and try to send a number 9 at some point, but I still don't think. I think that with the emergence of certain players, I think they'd be all right because I don't think even if Sesko gets injured, is Zirkzee a guarantee that he's going to be the player that's going to come in and replace him? Because it wouldn't surprise me that if Zirkzee got injured, his replacement would be, if Sesko got injured again, his replacement would be Mbeumo coming in centrally. Because I think that over 10 games, Brandon Mbeumo gets you more goals from a central position than what Joshua Zirkzee does.
Right. Well, that's the thing. And then you also have Cunha. He played striker the second half. You also have Rashford, who's played striker on over 100 games in his career as well. And I just kind of look at it and I go, I don't think we would need to move Zirkzee on and buy a striker. We have so many forwards right now, like almost too many forwards right now in that sense, that if you were to go, that's why I would say divert that budget elsewhere. And it would be worth it if it allowed you to buy, more on a midfielder, more on a left back, more another position of potential need. But I just don't think it would be. I don't think it would be worthwhile as just a loan.
Miles Lewis-Skelly, matey. Young player that sort of reminds me a bit of when United were selling Danny Welbeck to Arsenal. A young, talented player, just not quite. Van Gaal sold Welbeck to Arsenal when United signed Falcao. They were just signing players with bigger repute, bigger reputation, because they were in that position in Arsenal. We're having to pick off players at United who were good players, but not quite fulfilling their potential. According to some of the reports, and these adjectives are not United's words, they're the journalists. They balked at the fee. It says allegedly around 65 million. I don't think they probably did balk at it. I think that's something they would expect. I think if you asked 1,000 football fans to give you a price on Miles Lewis-Skelly, I think that most people are going to give you a price range of about 40 to 60 million.
Sure. Yeah,
right?
In that range, I would imagine. Yeah.
That's what I would say. So I don't think 60 million is something where United have balked. I'm sure they want people to believe that they're, struggling to put pennies together. That's what they should be doing. He's versatile. Can play in the left, can play in the middle. What do you think of him, and what do you think the potential is on United signing him?
I think he does represent quite a good potential solution. He's a good young player, very much fits within the way that, this regime United would want to do things. A player that has potential to be very, very good, just very underutilized at the moment at Arsenal in the way that he's playing. So, again, we kind of discussed how they don't really want to buy like
Sorry.
What?
I'm so itchy. Sorry, man. That's just when you're going to histamine now. I'm so itchy. Sorry, mate. Go ahead.
It's all good. He doesn't, he doesn't. They don't want to. They've obviously shied away from buying, like, I don't like to call them mediocre players, but like middle ground players where they are either, they're like 27, 28. They're United. Like they're buying really good players or young players. It's kind
Right.
of one or the other,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's not a lot of in the middle of like, they're just okay. We're not doing a lot of they're just okay type of
yeah.
purchases. Players they really rate or players who are young, pretty much everyone who's come
So
in so
no
far.
Ishmael Sarr.
Right. This type of thing. Yeah. So they haven't done those types of moves. And Skelly obviously fits very much in that young bracket of really high potential player that is just underserved at the moment. It's an interesting one. I think that what it comes down to, United had talks with someone back in like January or February about this as well. It's been kind of an ongoing thing. I think he's been up there in the list in a similar way where Camavinga for a lot of the same reasons. A young player kind of out of sorts at Madrid, multifaceted, can play multiple positions, keeping an eye on these solutions types players that are high reward, not necessarily high risk in that sense, as as you're not bringing them in to be the main guy right off the bat, but someone important into the team. So, but it's a weird one because Arsenal saying, no, we don't want to sell. And his people saying, no, we're not offering him around, but someone is. And,
Yeah, no.
it's clearly
Well,
games
this
being
is,
played. And I think that's part of the balking at the price is don't
yeah, of
pretend you
course.
don't want to sell him when you want to sell him. Well,
Of course, seriously.
Yeah.
The thing is that where I get a tad reticent is when United are going after players that have been offered to them.
Yeah.
Because that's the wrong. You shouldn't be arriving
Sure.
at it. I mean, maybe there's a coincidence where we were going to go for this player anyway, right?
Yeah.
But you have a process of elimination. You have a process that you adhere to, and then eventually a candidate emerges as a result of all these externalities, all these boxes being ticked.
Yep.
Anytime you get a top-down approach where an agent calls and rings you and offers you a player, it's risky.
Sure.
Because then you're abandoning the process.
Mm-hmm.
And an agent's job is to get offers for his client. We've talked about this before. So I can understand why agents do it. And if I'm, Lewis Skelly's agent, who am I ringing? Yeah. I'm ringing United, Liverpool. I don't even know if I'd ring City for the reasons you just outlined earlier.
Right.
But I could see if you're, Lewis Skelly, I could see where a move to Liverpool or a move to United or someone of that ilk where you're playing regular football would be a really good solution for you. I don't think there's many options for him abroad. I think you can go abroad to Barcelona or Real Madrid, but I think maybe even Atletico. But outside of that, you don't have the strength in the Italian league anymore. Yep. PSG maybe.
Right.
But outside of that, there's not much. Lewis Skelly's leaving the Premier League champions and the team that came within a whisker of winning the European Cup. So it's really only a few places he can go. In some ways, it's kind of a surprise for me because Arsenal, I'm sure part of them, James, must be livid over the way the Aiden Having situations worked out.
Yep.
Right? You saw Aiden's mom doing an interview with Jay Matty and the lads on Stratford Paddock. Brilliant show. About how Per Mertesacker, of course, was emphasized to her over and over again that he's a defender, which Per Mertesacker was right. And he isn't just a defender, he's an exceptional defender. If Arsenal were trying to sell Aiden Having now, if he put in the performances for Arsenal, he's put in for United in the last 2 years, James, you're talking 70, 80 million pound defender. Easily.
Yep.
You look at what did Spurs pay for Van Hecke, right?
55, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and Dunnamadil and Vuskovic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Aiden Having such an exceptional, composed young defender, no doubt will be in the England team. And young English defender, extremely hard to get, left-footed, extremely hard to get. Left-footed. I'm amazed. Arsenal must be sitting there going, £1 million. What did we do? But then we have people that fixate on net spend, right? Kylian Mbappe was a free transfer. Technically speaking, Real Madrid, if that was the only player they bought that summer, they'd have a zero net spend. I honestly, I lament how fixated people. I don't care about. We talked about this before. I just care about the quality of the player. United.
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And there's become such an obsession with this. Like I'm sitting here, I cannot believe, James, I'm arguing with Liverpool fans over Jeff Bezos. Well, I'm like, look, Liverpool and everything they profess to stand for, Jeff Bezos is the antithesis of that. And I shouldn't have to tell you that as a Manchester United fan. Jeff Bezos isn't buying Liverpool in the hope that it can make him some more money so he can buy a yacht he's saving up for.
Yeah.
Right? It's about power. Right?
Yep.
Power. Right? Football clubs of that ilk, of that magnitude, are very, very attractive. You know, why were Russians buying basketball teams and football clubs? It has enormous potential for soft power. Why did City, if you look at the way City were used, to escape any type of regulatory action because of their propensity to, of course, UAE.
Abramovich was for a long time was getting away with quite a bit,
And so you look, so it's used consistently for soft power. But everything's looked at through the lens of but he's going to give us a bunch of transfer spendies. I mean, where are we at?
They don't even need it. Is the funny part? Like they're kind of healthy on that front.
You spent $500 million last year.
It went backwards.
Honestly, I think that once the transfer window shuts down, these people go into depression.
Yeah, it's so much more than transfers,
Come on.
It's so much more in what makes a club successful. It really is. It's like
I even see
in the spend.
Anger, James. I even see anger being towards young players at United coming through, because the way some fans think is, that means we can't buy a player now.
Yeah.
I mean,
cost saving exercise because
we're apparently on any else's payroll. Because it's simply impossible to have an opinion different than theirs unless you're being paid for it. I understand. I have a 19-year-old. He's fixated on transfer funds. I'm not saying I don't mind a good transfer here or there, but let me make this clear. How I feel personally. I'm not saying how someone else should feel. I probably get more satisfaction out of seeing a young player come through the academy and establish themselves as a first-team player than what I do is from a transfer. Because to me, there's something a little bit more meritocratic in that, a little bit more authentic. Because anybody can go to the market and buy a footballer, but developing one, and maybe it's just a stupid puritanical nonsense, from me to value this, but United, whether people like it or not, are a football club that are synonymous with this. And I'm sitting here, some of the comments I read on social media, fuck Elon Musk for creating an engagement drives engagement, algorithm where you get paid because people post stuff that can't possibly be true. But even when I look at, I'm going to say something that might result. I'm not suicidal, by the way, so someone might take my life for saying this, right? I don't think United are in desperate need for a third midfielder. I think they need one, but I don't think they're. Of course, I'm on the NEO's payroll shite, right? I'm just looking at this going, okay, so if you've got an entirely fit midfield, right? So you've got Andres, you got Santos, Mount, so he stays fit, right? You have Leeds Martinez, which can easily slip in and play in there. You have Kabi, you have Bruno Fernandes, you have Yuri Tielemans. You can only start 3 of them. So already, if you're saying Kabi, Tielemans,
are people begging for Kobbie Mainoo to end up back on the bench again? Is my question, because I've been asking that too. Like, what do you want? Don't you want him to play like a lot? Because you sign another midfielder, Kobbie's minutes go back down to like 1,500. It's just a fact. That's just how it works.
Well, there's no midfield that's where Tielemans, Andre Santos, and Kobbie Mainoo all start in the same midfield.
Bruno's playing.
One of those players is going to sit down.
Yeah.
Right? Now I understand it's a long season, but if Andre Santos plays to the peak of his ability that we are seeing, that means he has to start, James. For who?
He's very unique in his profile too. That's the point.
Yuri Tielemans is a transformative midfielder.
Yep. Okay? He's been signed to play. So
there's 2 midfielders that have to play. So now we have to pick one more out of Kobbie, Bruno, Andre Santos, right?
Yeah.
Now, I think United, the third midfielder would be, we've seen Michael Carrick. We've seen his comments in the media here, where he's rightfully pushing for a third midfielder. He has to look availability over the course of a season. But James, each one of those players is playing to the peak of their ability. You've got Mason Mount sitting on the bench. You've got Cobby or probably Andre Santos, right? And then possibly brought another midfielder. Do we bring in an £85 million midfielder? Because if you bring in an £85 million midfielder that's the guaranteed start, whose position is he taking?
Yeah, agreed, 100%. And this is why I think United are very, very much in the frame of reference of looking at a young player like Lewis Page, where you're saying they're not coming in to be over Kobbie Mainoo, not coming in to be over Andre Santos, not coming in to be over Tielemans. What's that?
Lewis Page, good shit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason for a look at something like that, is to say they could come in and, if injuries go bad, if things go bad, that's when that player's going to get minutes, or play to rest some of the players if they've been playing a lot, where you don't have a problem of moving someone from another position up into the midfield, and you get this young potential player to learn and grow. The same goes for someone like Lewis Skelly, though, because the idea being multiple position coverage. He doesn't have to play in the midfield. He can cover on the left side, get minutes there, gives you more of that room to work with, in the midfield without benching two of your more important players. So this is United's view on it. And I'm in agreement. It's not a desperate situation that United get some amazing third midfielder right now. And I think that the performances that they've seen out of Andre Santos, in fact, I'm sure of it. And quotes from Carrick now are that he's been a dream since he's arrived, and it's been extremely, overwhelmingly positive about him, as you'd expect, but just in the way that he describes him, I think you're rightly putting your chips on Andre Santos and saying, this is our guy, for the future here. And alongside Kobbie, you want more than three players, but like, these are your Bruno, Tielemans, Santos, Kobbie. This is like your core foundation. Having young pieces to add to that is great. But that's where they should be viewed as, I think.
Well, let me ask you, are we missing a piece of physicality in there, James?
And that's the question, right? Because I think the question becomes then, sure, there is something kind of lacking at this point, but obviously the aim has been, and the view has been, play with more control, play with more possession, play with the ball, keep it. Santos have been unbelievable at keeping the ball, virtually mistakeless in that sense. Tielemans very good at it as well. And then you got to add to it how you can make up for this in other areas. Well, one of the biggest things I see on that front is the further introduction of Lenny Yoro and Aiden Heaven, because one of the things that they've done so well this preseason that you can see very, very different players to Maguire and Lissandro at this point in terms of how they play, right? Everybody brings different skill sets, different pieces to the table. Lissandro with his absolutely top class in terms of on the ball passing, progression through the lines. I mean, Heaven and Yoro, no slouches in this respect, but obviously not up to Lissandro's level. Maguire with the height and the physicality in terms of the size, the box defending and all of that. But then you have Yoro and Heaven as these two young they're both really, really physical in the sense of they're fast. They really put their body on the line into these things, and they have the youth on their side and the energy on their side for that. I think introducing one of these, and again, even a left back can help with this because they come in and help assist defending in the midfield. I think you can find solutions there that complement the team, and everybody plays and covers up the weaknesses of everybody else. And that's how you build a squad. But, I'd have concerns if you were playing like all your oldest, slowest players all at the same time without having that. But you do have these good young athletes in the back line that can supplement this.
Yeah, and good luck trying to tell the difference between Jack and Tyler Fletcher, because at least space the numbers out a wee bit there. Right? So
one's McTominay's number and the other one is a little different.
And let me just say something, James, right? So to me, it's perfectly okay to criticize young players in a sense that if it's couched within, reason, and it's responsible commentary, this is still you're a professional athlete. You're playing for Manchester United. It's okay if someone says, I don't think this lad's good enough. What I have a problem with is vindictive, targeted cynicism, where it transcends. People are making decisions about players' ability all the time at all levels of football. And are having to break bad news to 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds and 14. You're not quite good enough. That's okay. That's part of football. That's part of life. And you should expect to hear that. What I, have taken issue with is the quite personal nature of a lot of it from United fans. There's been a lot of talk about whether the Fletcher twins are up to the requisite standard that United need. I can't say either way. I know he was very highly thought of at City. Both of them were very highly thought of at City. I know that Darren Fletcher didn't want them at the football club he worked at. For the obvious reasons. Because
and didn't want to coach him either.
And James, anyone that's ever coached their son or their daughter, doesn't matter what level of football it's at, you're immediately faced with a dilemma of
all the time.
Do I overcompensate to prove that I'm not showing favoritism, in which case you're completely unfair to your own kid, or do I have no self-awareness and no shame and put my kid? And you would be surprised, by the way, how many occupy the latter, right? I had a situation, James, last season with my daughter, right? I mean, it amazes me that there's grown adults around to actually do this. Her team needed 3 coaches, not 1, 3. So 3 dads, so that their 3 kids could start every single game, every single minute. 3 strikers, right? And all 3 were picked for the All-Stars before the start. And there's other kids coming in significantly better, scoring more goals, and they're getting punished and I'm going, this is ridiculous. You know, like I would be someone that would be more inclined to go out of my way to prove there is no favoritism and be unduly harsh on my own kid. Right. But for young players who've had a parent, doesn't matter what sport it is, who have had a parent that's reached exceptionally high levels, it's very, very difficult. Not saying these are the same things at all, but I remember interviewing Jordi Cruyff. Obviously, not Darren Fletcher wasn't Johan Cruyff, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And asking him about what it was like to be Johan Cruyff's son, because when he came to United, he didn't want Cruyff on his shirt. I was extremely disappointed. I wanted to see a Manchester United shirt with Cruyff on it, right?
Yeah.
But he wanted to emerge from that shadow. Very, very difficult to do. So you have to understand for the young lads too, it's extremely, extremely difficult.
For sure. Yeah. And like you say, I think you just have to judge them on their own merit. And I think that certainly people take it too far and feeling like, being overly critical because they're going to make an assumption that they're in the team because of Darren Fletcher and all that. And I think that leads to, over the top kind of reactions, but they're young kids, whether they make it at United or not, we'll see. But all that should be seen is the young players getting chances like many other young players in the preseason, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, Thursday, 2 days away, we have Ruben Amorim's AC Milan. I must confess, it's nice to see him in the opposition bench. Ruben Amorim done an interview about 2 weeks ago, which to me was about 6-7 months too late. Where he talks about, I obviously made mistakes or certain things I could have done. If Ruben Amorim had done that interview within a week of leaving United, I think you'd have a completely different tone and sentiment towards him. I've found in life that whenever you admit to making mistakes and you own your own errors, most people in life, unless you're a serial killer or something, right? Most people in life are forgiven, James, right? Because most people understand that we're all flawed. We all make mistakes. I even think there with Marcus Rashford, if Marcus Rashford was to come out and do an interview and say, look, I make mistakes, people quickly move on and forgive.
Yeah.
Right?
True. 100%.
And by the same token, United acknowledge their own errors as inevitably in any relationship. But in any relationship that involves strong emotions, where you're going to get your best friend and your best enemy. Jesus Christ, I can't. But yeah, I don't think Amorim's won a preseason game, has he?
No, and I agree in terms of the sense of the timing of it, but obviously I would say that's also why he didn't, ultimately why he didn't succeed, because I think if he had maybe it's the experience, or maybe it's being further along in his career to have been more understanding of what went wrong and self-reflective at that point in time, then he would have self-reflected before he ended up out of the job, because he was going to be kept. It was certainly even despite some of the ups, the difficulties, he was going to make it through the whole season, but he kind of got himself out of the job and didn't reflect upon that. So
that's a good point, because if he had turned around and said about 2 weeks before he left, because God knows Sky Sports was shoving a camera in his face every 5 minutes. If he'd have turned around in one of those interviews and said, look, there are certain things I've done wrong, certain mistakes I've made, I can look back and hold the hands up, we'll try to fix those going forward. I'm not going to change my philosophy. I'm not going to change my values and principles, right? But I accept that there are certain things that I can do that that I've done wrong, that that I can be flexible on. I think that would have bought him more time, James.
For sure. Well, I think that it would have just from a personality standpoint, if he could have taken more direction without offense, he wouldn't. Right. It wouldn't have fallen apart. But that is why he couldn't immediately apologize or do that, because he wasn't in an emotional state to self-reflect, and obviously he needs to mature a bit more. He's a young coach in this respect, very young relative to coaches, but he needs to mature quite a bit more, and we'll see if he does, but over the course of his career.
Who he reminds me of a bit is Villas-Boas, right?
Sure.
And it wouldn't have, let's say he had done that. It wouldn't have surprised me if 5 years from now, some United players doing a podcast saying, the minute he said I make mistakes was the minute he lost the dressing room. It was over. Because people, they like to be dramatic like that. The minute if you were to me, whenever I hear John Terry say things like Villas-Boas asking the captain to move on an airplane, and then that was the minute he lost the dressing room. That's a fucking indictment on you, John Terry. Not the manager.
It's also nonsense, you know what I mean? Like, people just make this shit up all the time.
I abandoned the manager, and the manager's trying to win games of football because I didn't like how he asked the question. Mate,
that's wrong. Something's wrong with you.
You're banging people's wives more than Stevie Wonder's toe off a coffee table, and he's sitting there talking about abandoning a manager over that. Like, come on, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like if you look at it, if your wife asked you to move seats, if you liked your wife, you wouldn't be offended by it. But if you already were, hating, if you guys were already on the outs, you get real offended by that question.
My married daddy opened that fire exit door and dipped.
Fine, then you get, it's like, it's pre-existing conditions is what's going on here.
Don't worry about that.
Every little thing can set it off, but it's already broken by that point. It's like, it's nonsense.
No, so when I hear these dramatic statements like, the manager got up and sang a song and it wasn't your liking, so we all abandoned them. To me, I as an indictment on you, not the manager. And secondly, you're not playing for the manager. Anyway, but I believe 100% that if you look at Amorim's feelings, I've said this many times, it's a temperament feeling, James. Right? It's not about tactics. You can put that guy on Monday Night Football, and everyone's going to get a semi-listing to how technically adept he is, right? But it's got nothing to do with that. It has to do with how you communicate, how you manage people, how you manage egos, how you integrate them. If you look at that Jose Mourinho documentary, it makes this absolutely clear. Mourinho talks about, I reference this all the time. He says, I'm not going to teach Cristiano Ronaldo how to take better free kicks, right? Yeah. Or, I'm not going to teach Sergio Ramos how to be a better defender. But what you do is you find a way of bringing them of unifying them, of bringing them together so that they play together as a team, right? So that the things that you need to win are particularly nascent from their system. You have people with a consensus view and commitment on what success is at the expense of their own personal success. They all buy into it. And then you get momentum. and the sequela of 22 top level athletes playing together is that they were able to catch a Barcelona team. The sequela is brilliant. The brilliance, they were able to catch a Barcelona team as a result of not the tactics Mourinho was employing, but it was about how he managed the million. So I think that's where Amorim failed, is that he didn't come in with the Mourinho type aura, confidence, fake that it is. I mean, Jose Mourinho is playing a bit there, a character, right?
Of course, yeah.
Deep down inside, just like every other human being, he has doubts, fears, question marks, and that's normal, James. Like anyone that says they're not doing that in life is a bullshitter.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's just not how the human brain works. And the human brain is motivated by assessing risk and avoiding danger. The amygdala fires that you get the fight or flight. And it's always fear that is the biggest motivating factor to get you to do anything superhuman, right? It's never the reward, it's the fear. So, I think where Amorim lost United. If you look at Carrick had the same players, James, and that team finished third.
Yep.
How is that possible? Well, it's just possible whenever you change the environment.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see how Amorim does in Milan, because I don't think he's as bad as what the United. I mean, we're either going to see a Villas-Boas where the one success in Portugal will stand out and we'll never see it again. Or he's going to learn, or AC Milan might have got a top young manager who learned an awful lot from that United experience.
Sure. We'll see. Time will tell. And that'll be the story of his career then, yeah.
All right, now we'll get a couple more minutes. We'll get a question or two out, and then we'll be done. Where are you watching the game this weekend?
Me?
Yes.
At home.
No, I didn't know if you were going out somewhere or if you had anything in mind.
No, at home. Yeah.
What time is the game on this weekend?
I want to say it's 8:30 my time. Let me see. It's earlier. I know that.
Okay.
And then the next one is real early. It's 8:45 for me, so 7:45 for you, and then it's real early for the kickoff of the Premier League.
Okay, so Paul Morrell writes, with the wage structure Ineos implemented, will players who performed on the pitch whose contracts will eventually be renegotiated for more money, as someone in their late 20s still fit again in that structure, will Ineos raise the cap? So I think the question that he's asking is, if you're playing for United,
is there vertical movement upwards?
Yeah. You get, and there's a decent point being made here, James, because one of the things I don't understand, right, is at 30 you can only get a 1-year contract. But at 29, you can get a 5-year contract.
I mean, I have info on that for what it's worth.
Go for it.
Yuri Tielemans' contract, as I understand it, the wages are ultra reasonable, and that was essentially including. And then I believe there was also, nice things done on the agent fees and things like that. And from my understanding, that was part of the factor because it was such a reasonable transfer fee, very low on the agent costs, and a very reasonable contract. I'm talking like, from how I heard it, about like half what Bruno Guimaraes is going to get at Arsenal. They're willing to lengthen the contract a bit more, in essence, because you're talking about a much lower risk, much less hit per season for the player. And, and then it's not such a big deal at that point. They're not on 300,000 a week at 34 years old. They're at, 150, 140, and they might still be a really good contributor, and it changes the perception of things. So that's essentially the answer there that I have, that I believe is quite accurate. But look, in terms of the original question, there very much is room to go up, but United want to reward success, United being the stage for success, not the landing spot where you come here already at the top. You come here to earn your way to the top and get rewarded with increased wages based on the team's success as a whole.
I think 1 year when you get to 33. I think up to 33, you could do 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, like, what was Casemiro when you had signed him? 30, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was going on 30. Yeah.
So and I accept that not every deal works out like that, but to me, Casemiro at 35 is better than some of the midfielders at 25. But anyway,
for sure, yeah. I mean, when you again wages factoring these things in, that's all really what it is. Yeah.
Okay, James A writes, do you think that the management have been too focused on being nimble and flexible and responding to opportunities? Would it have been better to have a clearer plan and stick to it? I think they do have a clear plan, to be fair. Yeah. I think that it can appear that they don't have. If you believe everything that the media write, it can appear to be scattergun. No one in the media is writing, I have an exclusive, United might be doing this, I don't really know, right? So they're going to take a wee bit of information and turn it into a big story by exaggerating a few things, by a bit of hyperbole, and by a little bit of exaggeration on certain things, and by filling in a few dots. So yeah. I think, to be fair, in the past, we would have seen more signings, but they would have been agent-driven. And United have to be very, very careful about this. And, of course we want to see new signings, lads, but take a look at Chelsea and Liverpool. United finished ahead of both of them. And, what they spent between them? Close to $1 billion last summer.
Yeah, as every summer with Chelsea. So
and so it's not about. It's about the transfer window is not about signing players. It's about signing one or two players that improve your team. It's not okay. We got 5 players. You only got 4. We won the one. No, I want the United to be in a position where they only need 1 or 2 signings. If we get to a situation where United bring in 2 players, I'd be delighted.
Yep. And the other factor here on this, just bearing in mind, is that you can go in with a clear plan, but you still have to have a set of rules and principles. And one of the things that's obviously affected that was the prices that was paid for certain players in the market early on. Sandro Tonali for $100 million, Mateus Fernandes $85 million, and the types of wages that were there. Anderson $116. They can have their top targets, their main guys they're going to go for, but that's still held within strong principles and rules based on United's current situation and not massively overpaying and putting themselves in trouble that they've been in before in those senses. So, that's affected things too. Tottenham randomly dropping in $250 million on players was not, you've seen this written in other places, but it was not expected. It was an investment from the owner, but it was also just nobody expected them to overpay and pump the prices up on these players to that massive of an amount in the way that they did. But, and then you have to react to that. So even if you have a clear plan, it's like shit happens out of your control too.
And if you look at Newcastle, James, they sold Anthony Gordon, sold Tonali. Anthony Gordon and Tonali have a total of 6 goals between them last season in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Right? 6 goals. Yeah. So, they got, 170 million thereabouts for both of those players. I don't think those players would be, I don't think it's particularly difficult to replace Anthony Gordon. Anthony Gordon's rated significantly higher than what my eyes are telling me. Right? Mm-hmm. Tonali's a decent player, but I think there are certain positions in the field where stats are very, very telling. 1 or 2 stats. Yeah. To me, if you're a striker, your goals to game ratio is very telling.
Yeah.
There's very few other stats that can explain away a bad goals to game ratio.
Yeah.
If you've got a good goals to game ratio, but the other stats are lamentable, you can get away with it. Midfield, if you're not scoring and creating, mind you, I must say, one of the most embarrassing, I've been doing this for 16 years. I think I've mentioned this before, but one of the most embarrassing moments of a pregnant pause was whenever I said to Martin Yall that I didn't rate Michael Carrick. Right? I said to him, I don't get what all the fuss is. He doesn't score goals and he doesn't create.
I tried telling people that there's a lot of people out there from when Carrick arrived and around the time
listen.
Rate him. It was not an uncommon opinion. I keep trying to tell people he's much more appreciated now than he was back then. Absolutely.
whenever this was about 10 minutes into the interview, I think if I'd have started out with that first question, you would have just been it was like the disappointed pause of a father, like, what the fuck did you just say, you idiot? So embarrassed. But yeah, like so it's not always the most telling thing, but I think that would concern me. I think if Newcastle buy well, they'll replace those players comfortably. All right, let me see if we've one more, so and then we shall split. Let me do. Okay. Levi says, if we don't get Lewis Hall this summer, will we go back next summer? Good question.
I think any of our targets we would have this summer will be targets next summer if we haven't finished the positions. Santos was, Tielemans been a target for years. It's fairly normal for us to revisit things we didn't finish earlier and come back. Because why not? If you rated them one year, usually you rate them the next, unless things get crazy in some circumstance.
Yeah, Carlos Blava. But also it all depends on who emerges.
Correct, and who you sign, and yeah.
I mean, it does seem to indicate that they will sell Harry and Maas. Okay, I know we need to wrap this up, so we'll do one more and then we'll go. And thanks to all of you for downloading the podcast, for subscribing, for being in touch. Looking forward to a very, very busy season. Thanks to all of your emails and everything else. Very much appreciated. Model Citizen, can we start a petition or protest to save Waza from the overlap goal bridge? Oh, mate. This just came to my attention.
Yeah.
So, I'm surprised, honestly. But just for someone like Rooney, everyone knows what I think about that.
I don't want to say anything about it, and I'll just leave it at that. It's business is business. It is what it is.
So you have been put on notice to stop being so positive.
Oh, okay. They should really, really, really avoid my next live, because I've created positive graphics for my next live video as well to show just how positive I am.
Listen, lads, definitely mate. Listen, we don't understand frustration when not signing players. I get it, right? We just have different perspectives on this, and I don't know. Normally, I am a cynical bastard about it, and in the past, I certainly would have been a lot more. I just don't feel that way right now. Maybe that will grow as we get closer to the end of the window. Sure. If you nearly get spanked against Hull.
Look, if we go into the season, we start losing games, everyone's going to get negative.
All this Kumbaya shit will disappear really, really I just think
just wait. If you want us to be negative, just wait. Just wait. See if we lose games. If we don't, I'll stay positive the whole year. If we lose games, I'll start getting upset.
It's just a typical like British Irish attitude. It's cynical, negative. I love it. It's great. All right, we'll leave it there, folks. There's one of them we didn't get to, and I sincerely apologize. I will do a podcast. I'm going to do a podcast once a week where I just do questions due to scheduling conflicts and a couple of other odds and ends. I won't be doing the stuff with Sean anymore, but that leaves me wide open for another podcast through the week to do with listener feedback, with questions, emails, and what have you. And I'm going to look at rotating to have different people on each week. So it's possible I may reach out to some of you and see if it's something you want to do. Give Jamesy some peace and quiet. I'm glad and appreciative. I always have my trusty colleague here who sticks by me. Believe me, not always the easiest person in the world to stick with, but my big man here, my mate here, always have it back. Much appreciated. Jamesy, have a wonderful weekend, mate. And thanks for doing this, brother. And thanks to all of our listeners. Much appreciated. All the best, Jamesy.
Bye.
See you, mate.